When Levi Stannard let a traveling plasterer sleep in the spare room behind his ranch kitchen, he expected a cracked wall to be smooth by Friday. By Thursday dusk, she had peeled back 3 layers of lime and found a message that explained why his pantry trade had failed for 2 straight winters. The message was not written for romance. It was not written for treasure. It was written for whoever cared enough to repair the wall properly. That was why Nora Vale saw it when every owner before Levi had missed it. She stood on a flower crate with a lamp at her feet, one sleeve rolled above the wrist, her plaster tool held flat against the old finish. The kitchen smelled of lime dust, coffee, and the beans Mrs. Harrow had left simmering on the stove. Levi stood near the table, hat in hand, watching the woman he had nearly turned away that morning. The first thing she had said at his door was, "You sent for a plasterer." The second thing was, "The crack above your stove is not the only problem." Levi had looked past her at the pale winter road. She was alone, carrying a roll of tools, a square tin of lime putty, and a small valise tied with green cord. The plasterer he hired from Mesa Ford had been named Nora Vale, and Levi had expected a man with a ladder and 2 helpers. "Nolan is my uncle," she said. "His hands swelled after the last job. I came in his place." Harrow, who kept Levi's kitchen and trusted very few surprises, had looked Nora over from boots to bonnet. "Can you lay lime over stone?" "Yes." "Can you keep it from cracking over stove heat?" "If the lath has not rotted and the draft is corrected." "Can you eat stew without complaining?" "Gladly." Mrs. Harrow had opened the door wider. Levi should have asked more questions. Instead, he saw the split traveling seam on Nora's valise, the white dust ground into her cuffs, and the careful way she looked at the kitchen wall before she looked at him. He had spent enough years around work to know when a person saw the task before the payment. "You can stay until the job is done," he said. "Wages as agreed if the work holds." "It will hold if you let me find why it failed." That answer stayed with him. Stannard Ranch had a kitchen built of practical hopes: long table, deep sink, stove with an iron belly, pantry door near the north wall, and a service window sealed shut by planks before Levi ever owned the place. The previous owner had once sold dried beans, apple rings, squash flour, pickled onions, spice salt, and meal cakes to wagon crews moving between Green Hollow and San Alma. It had been modest trade, but steady. Levi had tried to reopen it twice. Both winters failed. Jars soured too fast. Dried goods softened. Flour took on damp. Travelers liked the taste, but stopped buying because the goods would not keep. Levi blamed bad luck, then poor storage, then himself. He had cleaned shelves, boiled jars, replaced crocks, ordered better sacks, and still watched every small order become a doubtful one. Now the kitchen wall had split from stove heat, and he had hired a plasterer because even a failed pantry needed walls that did not shed dust into food. Nora had noticed the crack, then the old patches around it, then the sealed service window, then the faint salt bloom near the floor. "This kitchen is trying to breathe," she said. Mrs. Harrow snorted. "Kitchens do not breathe. People do." "Walls breathe when builders mean them to." Levi had almost smiled. "And when owners do not know that?" "They seal the wrong thing and blame the jars." That was the first small hook she set in him. He did not know whether she was right, but he wanted her to be. By afternoon, she had scraped a test patch. The newest plaster came off in dry flakes. Under it sat a harder lime coat, smoother and older, with a warm cream color that told Nora it had been mixed with river sand. Under that, she found a thin wash rubbed with ash. She stopped there. Who worked on this wall last? Levi looked at Mrs. Harrow. A mason from Painted Bend, Mrs. Harrow said. 2 summers ago. He patched the crack and said the stove was too close. He patched over a warning. Levi stepped closer. What warning? Nora wet the wall with a cloth. Lines rose through the lime, faint as thread under linen. 3 vertical marks, 1 arrow, 4 words half hidden. Do not seal channel. Levi read them twice. The room seemed to change around him. The sealed service window, the damp flour, the soft dried goods, the jars that would not hold, the crack above the stove. They were no longer separate failures. They were pieces, waiting for someone who knew how old walls kept memory. Nora lowered the cloth. There is more under this coat. Mrs. Harrow crossed herself out of habit, then looked embarrassed by the motion. Who writes under plaster? People who expect walls to be opened again, Nora said. Plasterers, careful builders, practical minds. Levi looked at the 4 words until they blurred. Do not seal channel. What channel? He asked. That is what the wall is going to tell us. The next morning, Nora refused to tear blindly. She mapped the wall first. She tapped with the handle of her plaster tool and marked hollow tones with chalk. She held a candle near the base and watched the flame lean toward a crack in the floor trim. She rubbed old lime between her fingers and named the layers as if introducing relatives. Newest patch, hot mix, too much gypsum. It set hard and quick, so it pulled from the old coat. Levi listened. Second coat, good lime, river sand, maybe 40 years old, flexible. Mrs. Harrow muttered, flexible wall, breathing wall. Next you will say it has opinions. This wall has many opinions, Nora said. Levi laughed before he could stop himself. Nora glanced over, and something in her eyes warmed, quick and gone. He liked that laugh had not offended her. He liked even more that she returned to work without using it to soften the truth. By noon, she had uncovered more of the hidden writing. Do not seal channel. Night air under sill. Cold shelf north. Dry shelf high. Levi read the words aloud slowly. It is a pantry plan. Nora nodded. And a good one. Mrs. Harrow looked toward the pantry door. There are shelves in there. Wrong wall, Nora said. Someone moved them. Levi opened the pantry. The room was narrow and deep, lined with shelves his own carpenter had reinforced after the first winter failure. They stood against the inner wall near the stove, where heat passed through the plaster and kept everything just warm enough to tire food before its time. Nora stepped inside, lifted her lamp and pointed to the north wall. See the filled holes? Levi saw them then. Rows of small plugged marks, long hidden behind flour sacks and stacked crocks. Old shelf pins, she said. The pantry was meant to store jars here against the cold wall. Dry goods belonged high, away from floor damp, and the service window was part of the air path, not just a pass-through. Mrs. Harrow pressed a hand to her apron. We sealed that window because dust came in. Dust came in because the lower channel was blocked and air had to pull through cracks, Nora said. The old plan gave dust a place to settle before air entered the pantry. Levi walked to the planked service window. He had covered it in his first year, thinking he was making the kitchen tighter, cleaner, more respectable. He had been proud of the work. Now he saw how one tidy mistake could ruin 2 winters of effort. He should have felt foolish. He did, a little. But Nora did not make foolishness the center of the room. "This can be restored," she said. Those 4 words mattered more than the hidden message. "How?" Levi asked. "We open only what the wall asks for. We find the lower channel. We move shelves back to the north wall. We lime wash the pantry with a breathable coat. We vent the service window through a dust box. Then you test with one small order, not a full trade." Levi looked at her. "You speak like you have rebuilt pantries before." "I have repaired walls for people who blamed bad luck when they had bad airflow." "And what did they say when you told them?" "Some paid me. Some asked my uncle whether I was correct." He heard the story beneath that answer. "And was he?" "Often," she said, "because I taught him what to say." Mrs. Harrow made a small, satisfied sound and stirred the stovepot harder than needed. That afternoon, Levi rode to town for lumber and hinges, while Nora continued lifting the old finish. When he returned, she had found the second part of the message, written not in words but in marks. A rectangle, 6 short strokes, 2 dots near the floor, an angled line leading toward the sealed window. "This was drawn with the handle of a trowel before the lime set," Nora said. "Not decoration, instruction. For the next repair." "Yes." Levi set the lumber down. "Can you follow it?" She looked at the wall, then at the floor, then at the window. "I can, but I need to lift the baseboard." Mrs. Harrow appeared from the pantry. "That baseboard has not moved since before I came here." "Then it is overdue for conversation." Levi fetched the pry bar, then stopped. "Tell me where." Nora marked 2 points. "Slowly. If we break the tongue, we lose the path." He worked under her direction, easing the board out in patient increments. The board complained. The old nails resisted. Dust fell. Mrs. Harrow held the lamp. Nora knelt close, watching the gap. Then cool air touched Levi's wrist. He froze. Nora smiled, not widely, but enough. "There is your channel." Behind the baseboard ran a narrow clay-lined passage from the north wall toward the sealed service window. It had been packed with cloth scraps, mouse-chewed paper, and 2 broken wedges of old plaster. Not enough to be obvious. Enough to stop the kitchen from working as designed. Nora pulled a cloth scrap free with tongs. Someone blocked it to stop a draft. Would that ruin the pantry? Not alone, but block the channel, move the shelves, seal the window, use hard patching over soft lime, and the whole room turns against its purpose. Levi thought about how many failures were made that way. Not from one grand error, but from several reasonable decisions stacked without memory. "I did 2 of those," he said. "You did not know." "The goods failed under my name." "Then restore them under your name too." He looked at her because the sentence had weight. Nora was still kneeling by the open baseboard, holding a strip of old cloth in her tool hand. Lime dust lined her cheek. The lamp made her look both tired and determined. Levi had thought her pretty when she arrived, though he had tried not to let that thought crowd out his judgment. Now what moved him was larger than prettiness. She saw what needed repair and believed repair was worth the trouble. That belief reached places in him he had kept shuttered. Over supper, they made the first plan. Mrs. Harrow wanted the shelves moved immediately. Nora insisted on drying the channel first. Levi wanted to reopen the service window fully. Nora said not until they built a dust box with a slatted intake, lime-coated inside, removable for cleaning. Mrs. Harrow wanted to throw away every jar from the failed trade. Nora asked to inspect them before waste made the ranch poorer. She found some were sound. Not many. Enough to prove the story was mixed, not simple. The onion jars failed first because they sat low and warm, she said. Apple rings softened on the inner shelf. Squash flour stayed better in the high tin because it escaped floor damp. Levi wrote each observation in a ledger. "You keep books?" Nora asked. "I keep trying." "That is different from keeping. I am noticing." She reached for the ledger and he let her take it. She drew the kitchen as it was, then the kitchen as the wall described it. The page changed under her hand. Pantry north shelf, dry shelf high, crock line below vent, dust box at service hatch, lime wash after first frost, night vent only, close at dawn. "Why night only?" Levi asked. "Cold air settles cleanest then. Day wind carries road dust." Mrs. Harrow leaned over the page. "Whoever wrote that message knew this place." "Or knew kitchens," Nora said. "Do plasterers usually know kitchens? Good ones know why walls are asked to stand." Levi wrote that down in the margin. Nora noticed. "That is not part of the pantry plan. It is part of mine." She looked away and he saw color rise in her face. The next several days became a rhythm of careful work. Levi moved shelves under Nora's direction. Mrs. Harrow washed jars, scalded crocks, and pretended not to watch Levi watching Nora. Nora scraped bad plaster, saved sound lime, cleaned the channel, rebuilt the base coat, and taught Levi how a wall should be repaired when heat and cold met inside it. Every few hours, the kitchen gave up another small secret. Behind the sealed service window, they found a narrow outer shelf protected by a sagging plank. It had once allowed wagon crews to collect prepaid orders without stepping into the kitchen. Under the old paint, Nora found faint numbers burned into the wood. 1 through 12, each beside a slot. "Order slots," Levi said. "Or route slots," Nora replied. Mrs. Harrow wiped dust from number 7. "The old freight road used to stop here before turning to San Alma." Levi remembered hearing that, but only as a bit of local past. The current road ran a half-mile east. The old track was still visible in dry weather, 2 ruts through bunchgrass and stone. He had thought it useless. But the service shelf faced it. The pantry had not simply stored food. It had been built to trade through the wall. That realization opened a new problem. Restoring the pantry would help Levi's goods keep, but buyers would not return just because a wall breathed again. They remembered sour jars and soft sacks. They remembered wasted coin. They would need proof before they trusted Stannard Ranch food on the road. Nora understood before Levi said it. "You need a test order with someone whose word travels. Mr. Keene at the stage stop might try 1 crate. Would he tell the truth if it failed? Yes. Would he tell the truth if it held? Levi smiled slightly. Only if asked. Then we ask, in writing. She proposed a simple test. 6 jars, 3 dry packets, 2 meal cakes, each stored in the restored pantry for 1 week, then sent to Mr. Keene with a condition note. He would mark smell, texture, seal, and taste. He would return the note, whether pleased or not. If the goods held, Levi could show proof. If they failed, he would learn before selling more. Mrs. Harrow approved because the plan did not rely on pride. Levi approved because Nora had given him a path that did not ask buyers to forget. It asked them to observe. On the 4th evening, rain tapped the roof, and Nora worked late to finish the base coat near the message. Levi held the lamp. He had learned how to stand where his shadow did not cross her hand. "You are improving," she said. "At lamp holding, at waiting." That sounds like a larger criticism. Perhaps. He accepted it. "I have wanted this pantry trade to work because it would make the ranch less dependent on cattle prices. When it failed, I pushed harder at the same thing. More jars, better labels, stronger shelves. I did not wait long enough to see what the room was telling me. Nora smoothed lime into the crack. Rooms speak quietly. So do some people. Her hand slowed. He did not press. He had learned that with Nora, questions needed to be set down like tools within reach. She would pick them up if she chose. After a time, she said, "My uncle speaks loudly because customers listen faster. I learned to speak through work because if I talked first, some men decided before seeing my hands." I nearly did. "Yes, I am sorry." She looked at him then. "You opened the door." Mrs. Harrow opened the door. "You let me stay." He wanted to say he was grateful for that beyond the repair, but the words felt too large for a kitchen with wet plaster between them. "I am glad I did," he said. Nora returned to the wall, and the line of her shoulders eased. The first test of the restored pantry came sooner than expected. A wagon wheel broke near the East Road, and 2 travelers stopped at Stannard Ranch asking for meal and supplies. Levi would have given them food outright, but Nora suggested selling from the test stock with a clear note. "If it fails, bring back the jar and your coin will be returned," she said. The older traveler examined the label. "Never heard a seller promise that." Levi looked at Nora, then back at the traveler. "I had to learn from a wall. I can learn from a customer." The traveler took 2 jars of onions and 1 packet of dried apples. 3 days later, a note came back through Mr. Keene. "Goods sound, apples dry, onion jar bright, more wanted if same quality." It was a small note. Levi read it 4 times. Mrs. Harrow wiped her eyes with the edge of her apron and claimed stove smoke was biting. Nora only nodded. "Now we repeat." That became her way of guarding hope from running ahead of proof. One success did not reopen trade. It opened the next careful step. The restored pantry held its air. At dusk, Levi opened the night vent. At dawn, Mrs. Harrow closed it. The dust box collected grit that would once have entered through cracks. The north shelf kept jars cool enough to hold. The high dry shelf kept packets crisp. The lime wash gave the room a clean mineral scent instead of the stale warmth Levi had grown used to. Each improvement was plain. Each plain thing changed the ranch. But the message under the wall still had one covered portion near the old service window. Nora delayed opening it because the plaster there was sound, and she would not damage good work for curiosity alone. Levi respected that. He also thought about it every time he passed. On the 7th day, the sound plaster cracked by itself. Not badly. A hairline opened where the service shelf met the inner wall, likely from the old wood settling after the vent was restored. Nora inspected it and frowned. This was patched over paper. Paper. A practical plasterer would never bury loose paper unless it was meant to be found. She softened the lime around the crack with a damp cloth, eased a thin scraper under the edge, and lifted a folded slip no larger than a playing card. The paper was stiff with lime, but readable. Levi held the lamp. Nora read aloud. Use outer shelf for morning orders only. Keep account in flour drawer. Share route with Bell and Price. If trade stops, open wall and begin again. She stopped on the last line. Bell and Price. Levi looked at her. Price? Nora's surname was Vale, but her mother's family name had been Price, with a soft C that clerks often changed. She had told him that over supper, a small piece of history offered while Mrs. Harrow argued with a stubborn jar lid. My grandmother was Eliza Price, Nora said quietly. She traveled west as a plasterer's assistant. Mrs. Harrow sat down at the kitchen table. Bell was the first owner here. Nora touched the paper but did not lift it from Levi's hand. My grandmother worked on this wall. The final twist did not arrive like a shout. It arrived like a hand laid on the past and finding it warm. The message had not been random craft wisdom. It had been left by the very line of practical workers who taught Nora to listen to walls. Bell and Price had built a food route together, using Stannard Ranch as a pantry stop. When the road shifted and owners changed, the system vanished under planks and harder plaster. But the instructions remained, waiting for someone with the right patience and the right training. Levi watched Nora absorb it. "Your family left a way back into trade," he said, "and I nearly came only for a wall patch." "You came because the wall asked for you." She gave him a look. "That is a poetic thing for a practical man." "I am trying several new trades." Her smile trembled slightly. The flower drawer held the account book. Not inside the drawer itself, under it. Levi removed the drawer and found a narrow cavity built into the table frame. Inside lay a thin ledger wrapped in oilcloth. The pages were faded, but clear enough. Morning route, North Shelf, Bell jars, Price cakes, Stannard sacks, Keen stop, San Alma orders. Names filled the columns. Not grand names, working names. Women who packed jars, ranchers who supplied beans, bakers who made meal cakes, drivers who carried crates, customers who paid in coin, flour, or labor credit. The old trade had not made anyone rich, but it had made many people steadier. Mrs. Harrow read the entries with reverence. "I know some of these families," she said. "Their grandchildren still keep gardens." Nora closed the ledger carefully. "Then the root can be asked to wake." Levi heard the phrase and knew she was right. The pantry trade did not need to be invented. It needed to be invited back, with better records and honest guarantees. But the ledger also showed why the old trade had worked better than Levi's first attempt. It was not only the cool wall. Each page named the hour a product entered the pantry, the shelf it rested on, and the hour it left. Jars were not placed wherever space appeared. Dry packets were never stacked beneath crocks. Meal cakes were wrapped after the stove cooled, not while steam still clung to the kitchen rafters. Even the outer shelf had a rule. Morning orders on the left, afternoon pickup on the right, returns on the lower ledge until inspected. Levi read the notes with a mix of admiration and embarrassment. "I thought the old owners just had better luck." "They had habits," Nora said. "Luck gets too much credit when habits are quiet." Mrs. Harrow leaned over the page. "I set warm jars on the lower shelf last winter." "So did I," Levi said. Nora did not let either of them turn confession into defeat. "Then the new rule goes on the wall." She cut a clean board to fit beside the pantry door and asked Levi to copy the old schedule in large, plain letters. He protested that his handwriting leaned when he tried to make it handsome. Nora told him handsome writing was less useful than readable writing. Mrs. Harrow agreed so quickly that Levi suspected an alliance had formed without him. He wrote slowly. "Cool jars north. Dry goods high. Warm cakes wait. Night vent open. Dawn vent closed. Returns inspected before resale." When he finished, Nora took the pencil and added one final line. "If uncertain, check the ledger before guessing." Levi looked at it, then at her. "That line feels aimed." "It is aimed at every hand in the kitchen." "Mine first?" "Yours is often nearest the mistake." He laughed because the truth was gentler than the words. She had not made him smaller. She had simply placed his hand back inside the work. That evening, they tested the old schedule with a small batch of apple rings. Mrs. Harrow prepared them as she always had, but Nora made them wait in a cooling tray before wrapping. Levi marked the hour. Nora set one packet on the high shelf, one on the wrong shelf by the stove, and one outside the pantry in the hall as comparison. "You are making my failure into an experiment," Levi said. "Better than making it into a verdict." The next morning, the packet by the stove had softened. The hall packet had taken on dust. The high shelf packet stayed dry and clean. Mrs. Harrow touched the good packet and shook her head. "All that over one shelf. One shelf, 1 hour, one vent," Nora said. "Small errors travel together." Levi wrote the result in the new pantry book. He felt foolish again, but less painfully. The page did not accuse him. It taught him. More importantly, it gave him something he could show a buyer who remembered the failed jars. Proof did not have to be loud. Sometimes it was 3 packets of apple rings on a kitchen table. They spent the next week doing that work. Levi visited Keene at the stage stop with the restored ledger and the new test notes. Nora wrote a clear storage sheet for every product, naming where it belonged and how long it should be held. Mrs. Harrow prepared a small first list: dried apple rings, onion jars, squash flour, beans, sage salt, and skillet cakes. Levi replaced the outer shelf with cedar and tin lining. Nora sealed the dust box with lime and built a removable screen of fine slats. Keene agreed to stock one morning shelf if the goods arrived with account slips. Arlen Mercantile agreed to carry dry packets on trial. 3 garden owners from the old route agreed to contribute small lots after Nora inspected their storage sheds. "You inspect everything?" one asked. "Only what you want trusted," she replied. That answer traveled faster than any advertisement. But trust brought attention, and attention brought the kind of doubt Nora had known for years. A man from Painted Bend, the mason who had patched over the first warning, came to see the restored pantry after hearing his work had been corrected. He stood in Levi's kitchen with a stiff jaw and said old walls always had odd marks, and travelers liked stories more than quality. Levi felt the room tighten. Nora wiped lime from her hands. "Would you like to see the channel?" "I know how channels work." "Then you will appreciate this one." She opened the baseboard panel, showed the airflow path, the dust box, the shelf map, the account ledger, and the test notes. She did not mention his bad patch. She did not need to. The facts were enough. The mason looked at the restored wall for a long time. "I used too hard a mix," he said at last. Nora nodded. "For this wall, yes." "I did not see the marks." "They were faint." "You did?" "I was looking for what the wall had kept." He touched the new lime coat with the back of his finger. "It will hold." That was all he said before leaving. Levi watched him go, then looked at Nora with open admiration. "You could have embarrassed him." "What would that repair?" "Nothing." "Then I had no use for it." That sentence stayed with Levi longer than he expected. Nora's dignity did not depend on someone else being made small. It depended on the work standing in its own light. The first full pantry order went out on a gray morning with frost on the fence rails. 6 crates, each marked by shelf number and route. Levi loaded them on Keene's wagon while Nora checked each slip. Mrs. Harrow tucked a cloth over the jars and warned the driver not to stack flour near damp canvas. Keene lifted the reins. "If these sell, I will need twice the order next week." Levi did not answer too quickly. "If they hold and customers ask, we can supply more." Nora looked pleased. He had learned her caution well. 3 days later, the wagon returned empty. Every crate had sold. 2 notes requested more dried apples. One asked whether sage salt could be packed in smaller envelopes. Keene's own note said the onion jars stayed bright, and the meal cakes kept firm even after a wet night at the stop. Mrs. Harrow read the note and sat down hard. "Well," she said, The wall may continue having opinions. Nora laughed then, not quietly, not politely, but with true relief. Levi had heard little sounds from her all week, brief amusement and soft thanks. This laugh filled the kitchen. It made the restored wall, the old table, the north pantry shelf, and the frost-lit window feel like they had been waiting for it. Levi loved her in that moment. The knowledge did not startle him the way he might have expected. It settled like lime into laugh, finding hold in places prepared by respect. He loved the way she studied before speaking, the way she protected honest work, the way she carried family history without turning it into a demand. He loved that she had changed his ranch without trying to take it from him. He also knew love did not give him rights over her road. Nora had finished the wall. Her uncle would expect her back. Other jobs waited. That evening, she packed her tools in the kitchen while Levi stood by the pantry ledger, trying not to count each clasp and wrap as a loss. "The wall will need a second lime wash after deep winter," she said. "I will write that down." "The vent must be closed before sunrise. Mrs. Harrow will remind me if I forget. The dust box needs cleaning twice a week during road wind." "I know." She tied the green cord around her valise. "You know many things now." "Not the one I want." Her hands stilled. He stepped away from the ledger so there would be a table between them, space enough for a clear answer. "I want to know whether you would consider returning after your uncle's hands improve. Not as a hired patcher only, as the person who rebuilds this pantry trade with us. Paid properly, accounted properly, with your name on the route sheet beside mine and Mrs. Harrow's." Nora looked at him for a long moment. "You said not as a hired patcher only." "Yes." "What is the rest of the offer?" Levi breathed in slowly. "The rest is personal, and you may set it aside without changing the work." "Say it plainly." "I would like to court you, Nora, if you welcome it. If you do not, the route and wages stand as offered." Mrs. Harrow from the pantry made a noise that suggested she had just remembered she needed to be somewhere else. Nora's mouth curved, but her eyes were serious. "You are a careful man." "I was taught by a careful woman." "You were taught by a wall first." "The wall opened the lesson. You made me understand it." She looked toward the restored service shelf where the morning's empty crates waited to be stacked. Then she looked at the hidden message, now preserved under a small removable panel rather than covered again. "My uncle does need me for a while," she said. Levi nodded, even though it cost him. "I know. And I do not make decisions because a room is warm and a man speaks kindly in it." "Good. But I would like my name on the route sheet." His heart lifted. "And?" She picked up her valise, walked to the table, and set it down again. "And I would like to receive letters from you while I am away. Practical letters. Tell me whether the channel holds, whether the root grows, whether Mrs. Harrow still insults the dust box." "She calls it a fancy dirt cupboard," Nora smiled. "Include that." "And may I include that I miss you?" She looked down at her hands, then back at him. "If it is true." "It will be." "Then yes." She left 2 days later on Keen's wagon after the second pantry order was packed. Levi did not ask her to promise more than she had offered. He handed her a packet of route notes, her wages, a copy of the pantry plan, and a small, lime-smoothed stone from the channel, which Mrs. Harrow called sentimental nonsense, while wrapping it in cloth so it would not scratch Nora's tools. Nora took it with care. "This is a strange keepsake." It held the air path. "That is still strange." "Useful strange." She smiled. I accept useful strange. For 6 weeks, letters traveled between Stannard Ranch and Mesa Ford. Levi wrote about the pantry without pretending he did not also write because he wanted her voice near his days. The first week, he reported that Keene sold every jar. The second, he admitted he forgot the Dawn vent once and Mrs. Harrow made him write it in large letters above the shelf. The third, he sent a route sheet with Nora Vale listed as Plasterer and pantry consultant. Her reply corrected the title. "Plasterer is enough," she wrote. "A true trade does not need dressing up." He wrote back, "Then plasterer it is." By the time Nora returned, the small food trade had become a route with rules. Every product left with a storage slip, every shelf change went into the ledger, and every wall patch waited for Nora's inspection, or a panel left for later reading. The old bell and price system became Stannard route again, not copied exactly, but honored. Levi met Nora at the yard gate in late afternoon. She stepped down from the wagon with the same valise, the same green cord, and a new packet of letters tied in ribbon. Mrs. Harrow stood in the doorway pretending to count jars. "The wall? Holding. The channel? Breathing. The trade? Steady. And you?" Levi took off his hat. "Waiting." She looked at him for a long breath. "Still careful?" "Trying to be." "Good. I have decided to stay through winter." He felt the words before he trusted them. "For the pantry?" "For the pantry." He nodded. "For the route?" "Yes." Her eyes warmed. "And for the letters that may be easier spoken across a table." Mrs. Harrow disappeared into the kitchen with unnecessary speed. Levi did not reach for Nora until she offered her hand. When she did, he held it gently, lime-rough fingers resting against his palm. Inside, the kitchen wall glowed pale in the lowering light. The message remained under its small panel, no longer hidden and no longer exposed to damage. It had done what it was meant to do. It had waited for the right repair. That winter, travelers began timing their route by the Stannard morning shelf. The pantry trade stayed small enough to be honest and large enough to matter. Garden owners brought goods to be stored correctly. Keene carried crates with notes attached. Mrs. Harrow ruled the kitchen with a ledger in one hand and a spoon in the other. Nora trained 2 local women to lime wash and patch around airflow channels, and she made them practice on scrap boards until their hands learned patience. Levi watched the ranch change from a place trying to force profit into a place that understood its own design. He changed too. He learned to ask what a room was built to do before improving it. He learned that a system could be caring without being soft. He learned that love, like plaster, needed the right mixture. Patience, breath, firm pressure, and time to cure. On the first clear morning after New Year, Nora stood on the service side of the kitchen wall, marking shelf numbers on new cedar. Levi held the paint cup. Snow lay thin on the old route road, and wagon tracks pressed through it toward town. "The lettering is crooked," she said. "Only on number 4. 4 will resent it. 4 will survive." She handed him the brush. "You mark the last one." "I am no painter." "You are part of the route." So he painted number 12 on the outer shelf while she watched. It leaned slightly left. She let it stand. Later, when the morning crates were loaded and the kitchen warmed, Levi opened the small wall panel and read the hidden message one more time. "If trade stops, open wall and begin again." He closed the panel with care. Nora stood beside him. "Do you ever wonder what else is hidden in this house?" he asked. "Yes." "Does that worry you?" "No, A house that keeps messages may still have useful things to say. He looked at her. And if it speaks in cracks, then we repair what cracked and listen before covering it. Levi took her hand, this time without the uncertainty that had shadowed the first weeks, because she met him halfway. Their courtship did not need a crowd or a grand statement. It lived in letters, ledgers, lime dust, shared meals, and the daily choice to build something that both could stand inside. The pantry trade that winter never became large enough for boasting. That was part of why it lasted. It served travelers, nearby homes, small gardens, and a ranch that had nearly lost faith in its own kitchen. Every order carried a storage slip. Every slip carried Nora's plain hand. Every crate that left through the restored service shelf proved that the old wall had not been hiding a secret for drama. It had been preserving instructions. And because one cowboy let the plasterer stay long enough to read them, Stannard Ranch found its trade again. By spring, the kitchen wall was smooth, but Levi never let it become silent. The little panel remained. Visitors asked about it sometimes, and Mrs. Harrow would say the ranch owed its pantry to a woman who knew lime could remember. Nora would correct her and say lime only held marks. Levi would look at Nora then, usually across the morning shelf, and think both things were true. The wall held marks. Nora held the patience to read them. Together, they gave Stannard Ranch a way to begin again. Not by forgetting failure, but by uncovering the message underneath it and building the next season with air enough to breathe.